Wow, I was right. SpaceX Starlink satellites now have advanced lasers on board. So much once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning, and that is it. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a technology day. This is a very exciting video to me because I'm not right very often, but this time I am right, 100% right, and this is major. This really will change everything. Before I get deep into the weeds here, I just want to say this is going to be a little bit longer of a video, so if you don't like long videos, skip ahead. I don't want to hear it in the comments, oh, you took too long to get to the point. If you want to do it yourself, you do it yourself, all right? And then I'll come and watch yours, all right? Let's do that. I get tired of that. Sometimes it gets really old because I've been putting out a ton of really good information and then people complain that it's not quick enough and they're not getting it fast enough and I'm not spewing it quick enough for them. People just have like ADHD problems like I do, and instead of taking meds, they take it out on the content creators, and they really shouldn't. Anyways, that's me venting just for a minute. So, this is going to be a little bit longer of a video, so hang tight. I probably will pull out the pad and start drawing for you and all kinds of other stuff in this video to really try to get the concept across. Because some people, they just don't understand how this all works, and I want to explain it. Because this channel is all about the why, not just the how things are, but the why behind them. So you understand. That's my goal with this channel. So before I dig deep, I want to say that if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks, like I always say, download them. They're free. Go to JCristina.com/books. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And if you are subscribed, click this little button over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. If you enjoy the content, throw it a thumbs up. That is very, very important for the YouTube gods to look down on the channel positively, right? Throw it a thumbs up. That'd be awesome. Also down below, comment. Even if you just put an emoji, a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I'm happy with it. Comment. I want to hear from you. Also, if you want more Starlink content, I've produced over 190 Starlink specific pieces of content. How-tos, tips, tricks, what to do, what not to do, what to buy, what not to buy, why. Always the why. And if you're looking for a VPN, check out PureVPN. They gave us a promo code, which is JCristina. You'll get 15% off using them. You can get a static IP address from them, which you don't have through Starlink. Also, you can get port forwarding through them. So check them out. Once again, 15% off. You can go to JCristina.com/VPN. Once again, JCristina.com/VPN. And if you just want to say thank you for all of my hard work, there's a little thank you button that you can click on. Give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's fine too. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. So let's get into this. There was an article that kind of just sparked all this off. But before the article came out, Elon Musk put a little quote, let's say, in his Twitter account. And he said this, he said, quote, "Frickin' satellites with lasers," air quotes. Frickin' satellites with lasers. And that was kind of before the actual information came out of what that actually means. Is this lasers that are going to be shooting other satellites? Is it that kind of thing? Is it Star Wars going on here? No, that is not what he's talking about. What he's talking about is the communication lasers that are on these satellites. And there are brand new advanced lasers that went up on the last batch of SpaceX Starlink satellites. I was reading an article about what this means, these advanced lasers, and they kind of got a couple of little tidbits in here, but I'm going to dig in deeper like I always do on this channel. We're going to get in deeper so that you really understand what this means and how massive this is and how this does change everything. So anyways, let's get into this article and then we'll dig right into it. Not to go too long with this video. It is going to be a longer video. Like I said, skip ahead if you need to. Don't complain later that I took too long to get to the damn point. Anyways, it starts out by saying SpaceX Starlink satellite internet constellation is geared up to set another important milestone to become one of the few internet services that will provide laser-based coverage to crew flying on the Crew Dragon spacecraft. Throughout the past couple of years, SpaceX has become the one-stop shop for all things related to space. The firm's Falcon 9 rockets can launch a diverse set of payloads to different orbits and crewed missions to the International Space Station, or the ISS, and other destinations. At the same time, its Crew Dragon spacecraft is one of the few that offers service to both private and government astronauts, and its internet service Starlink uses low Earth or LEO satellites to beam internet connectivity all over the world. Now, Starlink will provide internet connectivity to astronauts who are part of the Polaris Dawn mission, whose liftoff should occur sometime next year. Additionally, another first for the Polaris Dawn mission will be testing Starlink. SpaceX revealed recently that Starlink satellite's internet constellation is using more than 8,000 lasers for inter-satellite communications, with each laser capable of transmitting 100 gigabits of data per second. It also announced that a recent Starlink launch was the first to see the satellites equipped with the next generation lasers. And that's what I was just saying. Just the other day, I think it was Monday, they launched a batch of 21 or 22 satellites that have these new advanced lasers on board. Bear in mind, SpaceX Starlink's version 1.0 satellites did not have onboard intercommunication or laser communication between satellite to satellite capabilities. Whereas when the 1.5s were launched, they did have lasers on board, but the brand new 2.0 minis had the more advanced satellite lasers, but these that just launched just a couple of days ago have the new improved, extremely fast 100 gigabits per second lasers. Unbelievable. This is amazing. Once again, this is a game changer. We're going to get into this even deeper. So I was looking over on X for more information. I looked on Elon Musk as well as Starlink's page. And what I found over on Starlink's page was very interesting. It said this, quote, "Our next generation Starlink optical space lasers, pew pew, as they call it, pew pew, were launched to orbit on Monday." Those were these new satellites. Quote, "With more than 8,000 space lasers across the constellation, Starlink satellites are able to connect thousands of kilometers apart beyond the view of ground stations and maintain point accuracy to enable data transfer up to 100 gigabits per second on each link." Remember that, on each link. 8,000 space lasers, 100 gigabits per link, per laser, 100 gigabits speed. It finalizes with, quote, "Starlink's laser mesh network allows us to provide truly global coverage and serve those in the most remote locations on Earth, including maritime and aviation customers." You could be on the Arctic or the Antarctic and be able to get coverage today, and fast coverage. Now, remember what they said here. 8,000 lasers. Now, we know that there is about 5,000 in orbit, 5,000 satellites, and about 4,500 of those satellites are operational. So if they're saying 8,000 lasers, let's just extrapolate a little bit and say there's 2 lasers on board of each of these satellites. Let's just use that as a baseline. So what does all of this mean? Well, these pew-pew lasers that are now advanced that can transmit such high data rates or speeds are going to be able to eliminate ground stations. I was right, guys. Remember, I was telling you about this. I said, don't worry about the ground stations because I think they're going to go away. They're not going to need the ground stations once they have this laser mesh network working properly. And Leo, I'm going to get a little bit deeper into that in just a second. Now, I was also researching this, like, how fast are these lasers? How fast are they in comparison to fiber? A lot of people say, oh, fiber is absolutely the best thing since sliced bread and all the rest of stuff. And it is, terrestrially, on the ground. But non-terrestrially, it's not. The reason being is the lasers are 40% faster than fiber optics. People don't know this, but it is the case. 40% faster are lasers in a vacuum in space in comparison to fiber optics here terrestrially. 40%. That is a big difference. So what does this translate into? This means if you are sending data from point A to point B, and the 2 points are over 3,000 miles apart. Let's say from one side of the US to the other side, or maybe around the world, whatever. Once you hit that 3,000 mile barrier, let's call it, the lasers will be faster than the fiber. Meaning if we want to communicate with someone from Florida to someone on the other side of the planet, let's say in China, all right, it's going to be faster to do it in space with this new or with this mesh network of laser communication that these satellites have, and especially now with the more advanced ones. So let me bring you into my screen. We're going to do some math so you can see exactly how fast this really is. So we know that there is 8,000 lasers in total, and they are able to communicate at 100 gigabits, that's a lowercase b, 100 gigabits per second. That's 8,000 lasers at 100 gigabits. That will be a total of 800,000 gigabits, lowercase b, per second. So what does this convert to? 800,000 gigabits equals 800 terabits. Okay? This is a lowercase b, 800 terabits. So we get an idea here. Now 800 terabits, let's go ahead and put that down, equals 100 terabytes. That's a capital B. So if we take the 100 terabytes and convert that to megabytes, that would convert to 100 million. That's right, 100 million megabytes. So, as you can see, it's a lot. These new satellites, these new lasers on these satellites, these communication lasers are extremely powerful. And I think that they're going to get more powerful as time goes on. But as you can see, what SpaceX Starlink is doing here is they are forming a mesh network, just like we do in our office or in our home, a mesh network of satellites. In comparison to what we do in home, we do mesh networks of APs or access points, and then we have a router as a hub that communicates to all of them. And that allows us to go to any spot of our home and get full service or full signal or full speed. Well, the same thing holds true here. It doesn't matter if you are in Florida or if you're in China, you're going to be able to get the data at the speed of light using this mesh network. And what's more important here is the data doesn't have to come back to the ground to hit any of these ground stations. It could stay non-terrestrially instead of having to go terrestrially where things slow down. So the speeds that we're going to see, the latency is going to come down and the speeds are going to go up. Now, some people don't know this, but normal fiber, all right, sits at about an average of 17 milliseconds latency. These communication lasers are going to be sitting at about 10 to 20 milliseconds latency. So literally the latency is going to be as fast or actually faster than fiber. So as we can see, the lasers being 40% faster are simply going to be able to reduce the latency all the way down to 10 milliseconds. That is insanity that we're going to be dealing with satellites that are at 550 kilometers above Earth and have data coming back and forth at 10 milliseconds. Absolutely crazy. Now, while I got the chalkboard up, I want to show you something that a lot of people ask. How does this whole thing work? And why will this actually be faster? How does this help? All right, so let's get back over to the chalkboard. I'm going to show you something that hopefully will really be able to get this to sink in. All of this terabits and terabytes and megabytes and megabits, sometimes it's just hard to understand or see. So let's get back to this chalkboard and we're going to take a look. So let's go ahead and erase this, and then we're going to get into something that hopefully, once again, this will help you understand how this works and why this is so important. Why is this so good? Why is this going to change everything? Let's go ahead and bring up a clip art of the Earth and then maybe some satellites. Now, obviously, we have 8 satellites here and not 8,000, but that's okay. You get the picture. So let me start out by putting where I'm at. Let's say I'm down here in Florida. I'll just put a red dot. And I'll put a red dot here and I'll put me, just so that we know this is me. And then let's put a dot right here. This will be, let's say, the ground station. So let's label this as GS, that's the ground station. And then finally, we need to put a pop. So we'll put the pop over here, just so that it's farther away. It's not going to be exact, but we'll just label this as pop. This is where people get confused. So just understand how this works. If we were to send a request to Google to look something up, our router will send it to our satellite dish, and then the dish will send it up to a satellite. The satellite then will send it back down to the ground station. The ground station will send it over to the pop, and then the pop will send it out to the internet, get the data, and send it all the way back. So if we write this up, just so you get an idea, it goes from me, the request, up to a satellite, then from the satellite back down to the ground station, then from the ground station to the pop, and then from the pop, it goes to the internet. Once it gets that information, the data goes in reverse. It goes from the net to the pop, from the pop to the ground station, from the ground station to the satellite, and then from the satellite back to me. That is basically how it works. But now look at how this will change. Let's go ahead and erase these lines off here and now change the lines to how the new method would work. So if we didn't need a ground station, what would end up happening is the request would go up to the satellite from our router or from our dish, and then from this satellite, it would go right back down to the pop. And then the pop would send it out to the internet and then would go in reverse. It would take that ground station out completely. So if we wrote that out, it would go me. From me, it would go to the satellite. From the satellite, it would go to the pop. And then from the pop, it would go to the net. And then it would come back once again, eliminating the ground station out of this sequence. Now, why is this so powerful? Let's go ahead and erase this one more time. Get rid of these lines. Now, let's say we need to send data. And we need to send it from where we are, which would be in Florida, right here, right where I am. And we need to send it all the way on the other side of the planet over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a little mark right here. This will be where we're sending the data to. So if we send the data from our dish up to this satellite, and instead of having to have the data go from the ground station to the pop and to the net and back up and all the rest of the stuff, how about if that data goes from this satellite over to this satellite, then this satellite to this one, and then when it gets to this satellite here, it just sends it down to the location where it needs to be. So now that we delivered the data, we're going to get some data back. It will now send the data back up to the satellite, and the satellite will send it to the next satellite and the next satellite and the next, so on and so forth until it gets to the satellite that is overhead, and then it will send it right back down to us. Bear in mind, this is for just moving data. If you need to go onto the internet, you're still going to need a pop and you're going to need to go to the internet to get that information back. But this will eliminate the ground stations altogether. This is a massive, massive difference. Like I said, a game changer. Now, the only thing missing here that I predicted that is not here yet, and that is a NOC, or a CO, a central office, or a NOC, a network operations center in space. And I think that is going to happen. Do I know this? I don't know. I don't work for them, but that's what I would do. Because if you just think about it, like I said earlier, when you have a router, you have a mesh network in your office or in your home, you have a router that controls everything. It's the brains of everything. And then you have APs or access points all over your home. Well, that brain communicates through all of those access points, and it doesn't matter where you are in your home or on the planet, you will be able to get that data in that mesh network. The same thing holds true here, but instead of having to send it and then have it come back down to the POPs or point of presence, how about if we have a POP or a NOC, a network operations center, non-terrestrially in orbit? What that means is that POP or that point of presence or that NOC, that network operations center in LEO, is now going to be acting as a router and sending the data to the satellite or the AP, if you're talking about terrestrially, sending it to that AP where it needs to go. And that is it. It doesn't have to keep bouncing it to Earth. It keeps it non-terrestrially, and it allows the data to traverse at the speed of light. And what would be really nice about these NOCs, or these network operations centers in LEO, is the ability to do QoS, for example, quality of service, take care of bandwidth shaping, once again in LEO, or maybe do some type of attack countermeasures or prevention to keep the integrity of the network, but doing it from outer space instead of doing it on the ground. If this was to happen, this would really change everything. As it is, these lasers are going to be changing a lot due to the speed at which it could traverse data throughout the world. Not just in a small or a short distance, but in long distances. Like I said, over 3,000 miles, the lasers are 40% faster than fiber. Period. End of story. So we're going to see lower latency, we're going to see faster speeds, and we're most likely going to be able to see more data transmitted, more data connectivity once we see the larger version 2 satellites in orbit. But I really would like to see a NOC, or a Network Operations Center, in LEO. We will see if I end up being right about this. I've been talking about this for over a year now. I said that they were going to do this whole laser thing before they did it and turn it into a mesh network just like we see here. And now they're doing it to the next level. It is even faster. It's bigger, badder, better. And once again, it does not have to have that data come back down to Earth. It can stay up in LEO until it has to come back down into your dish. This is a major, major advancement. And like I said from the very beginning, GSs, or ground stations, are going to go the way of the dinosaur. They're going to need less and less and less of these. They're not going to need them. But what this does mean is that the POPs, or the point of presence, are going to have to become beefier. That means that they're going to need really some amazing satellite connectivity, some antennas at those POPs. Whereas right now, the ground stations are acting as those antennas that are sending the data up and down, which is actually causing a lot of latency. But those antennas are going to have to be installed at the POPs, at the backbone of the internet, let's call it. That's where those are going to have to be installed to really get it to function at max speed. So is that happening right now? I'm going to guess it is, because if it isn't, I don't know how they're going to do it. So this is really exciting times. I hope you're excited for it, because I think this is awesome. This is really, really cool. I hope this video has given you some, let's say, back-end knowledge to how this works. If I got anything wrong here or there, my apologies. Down in the comments, let me know. I'm not an expert at this stuff. I try to give you as much knowledge as I can, and I do a lot of research before. So if I'm wrong with something, please let me know. I want to know about it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have, throw the video a thumbs up. That'll be very helpful. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love y'all.